Hello Rebrand gang, a little bit of a different type of video today. A couple of weeks ago I asked the Rebrand Everything viewers to send in their logo submissions that they want me to have a look at and maybe redesign, and I'll just show you basically what I would do to sort of continue the design or how I would adjust it to sort of make it just how I like it really. It's kind of all personal preference, but just to show you what I would do. Thank you very much for sending logos, everyone who did. I've tried to do as many as I can, but I got a lot of submissions, a lot more than I thought I would, so I haven't been able to do all of them. Let's get into it. Okay then, so our first logo is this one here from Moho. I'm not sure what this logo is for, so I'm not going to do anything industry specific or anything that changes the concept. I'm just going to show you what I would do to make this sort of like a more future-proofed and more usable in all applications logo. So this was actually supplied as a PNG at first. You can see when I go into outline mode that we just got this box around there. So I'm just going to redraw this using the pen tool and probably just the primitive shapes, just like a circle, and I'll just squash that into an oval. So I'll get on with that now. So that I don't accidentally move this around, I'm going to just press Command and 2 to lock it down. And then let's get into drawing this. I think I'm going to start with the letters. So this one I'm going to use the pen tool just to draw out this M. I'm going to pull some rulers down just so I know where to start and finish my points, so that the M and the A both work nicely together. Nothing looks more amateur than when things don't align, so this is key. So right, let's just draw these points out here. Again, for the A, we just want to make sure that top point is exactly the same height as the M, or the top points on the M. For the H, we don't really need to use the pen tool, we can just use the line tool. Duplicate that across just by holding down Alt and clicking and dragging. Don't release Alt until you've let go of the mouse, that's cool. And then do the same there, and then just press R on the keyboard, click and drag while holding Shift just to make sure it's 90 degrees as I'm turning it. And then I'm just going to basically reposition these points using A, pressing A for the direct selection tool, select over that point. Smart guides are on, so you should see that little word intersect comes up. That's the smart guides working, it helps you just get everything mathematically perfect. And same again over here, and just pull that down into position. And then what we should see, once I've created the O out of this circle, what we should see is a perfect vector version of this PNG logo. I'm going to go into outline mode just to make sure everything is there. Command and colon just to get rid of them rulers, and that looks good to me. So now it's just the oval we need to worry about. So I'm just going to click, go from the center of that PNG, pull it out till it looks about the right shape. I'm going to put a weird color stroke on there just so it's easy to see on top of the black. Try and align that so it's about right. And then it's just a case of trial and error basically to get that looking perfect. So I think we need to rotate a little bit more. I'm just pressing R on the keyboard and then clicking and dragging. Just eyeballing this now. I think we should be nearly good. A little tiny bit more around to the left, anti-clockwise. Cool, I think that's good. I'm just going to unlock them rulers and delete them because I don't need them now. Okay then, so my initial thoughts on this logo is there are two things that I would change. One of them is the line thickness. It looks very thin to me, so much so that if you scaled that down to sort of a profile picture size, I think it's going to look too thin basically and be very hard to read. So one of the things I'm going to do is fatten them lines up. So I'm going to do that now. I'm just going to use one thickness for all of the aspects of this design. So I'm going to do that now. So I'm going to make the stroke black, and then I'm going to just thicken all of them lines up, probably to 2 or 3 times what they were. I'm going to press Command, Alt and 2 to unlock the PNG, and then just slide that over to the left so we can compare in a minute. And then while I've got that selected, I'm pressing V to get the direct selection tool, holding down Shift and then selecting again. And that's selected our vector version now, and deselected our PNG version, so I can move that over. Right, now if you'll notice, what's happened here is the sharp corners are looking a little bit too sharp for me, so I'm just going to round them off in the stroke palette here. And also I believe there's soft rounded corners on the end there. It's hard to tell whether PNG's low res, but I think that's what we're going to go with because I just like the look of that. I think that'll look quite cool and kind of quite spacey. I'm not entirely sure what this logo is meant to stand for, but it's just kind of got that spacey look, kind of like sciencey spacey style, with the like line coming out of the O here, which kind of makes it look like these two letters are set back, so it's kind of got a little 3D aspect, which is quite cool. So now that the lines are thickened up and that's looking quite neat and tidy, I'm just going to make sure that these two are aligned and also group them, Apple G or Command G, and that as well, and just align them too. And then you can see here that there's gaps to sort of differentiate the letters from the oval behind it. So my plan is to just make them all exactly the same. If you look now, I'll use a rectangle just as a temporary guide. If you look at the space in here, if we make that a different color, just a bright color, just to illustrate this, we've got that much space in for that section, and then we've got more there, and then we've got about the same again there, and then a little bit more there. So my plan is to just make the spacing the same around all of them letters. So what I'm going to do is take 3 letters that do have the gap between the oval and the letters. I'm going to copy that, and then I'm going to make this stroke white. And remember that I've still got it on the clipboard because I've just copied it, so don't worry. I'm going to bring them to the front by pressing Command Shift and end of sentence square bracket, I don't know what it's called, right square bracket. And then I'm going to double that stroke, and you see what that's done is just made that channel wider. If I undo that and redo that again, made that channel wider. Therefore when I press Apple or Command F, we've got a consistent white space around the black stroke of the letters. And now if you'll see here as well, on the Moho original version, we've taken out that center bit as well, between, like in between the letters. So I'm literally just going to get the rectangle tool and put a white rectangle in there, and then bring this black stroke to the front again. Same here, I'm just going to make that a triangle, so I press the minus key just to get the minus point tool, and minus that. A for direct selection tool, pull that in, pull that one to the top, pull that one over to the left, and then we'll grab this black stroke and bring that to the front, Command Shift and right square bracket. And then down here I'm pretty sure I can just take the rectangle we used for the M and adjust that into position, and then just grab the H. I grouped it earlier, so once I click that now with the black arrow tool, I can just bring that to the front, and we're nearly there. So I still think these white strokes are a little bit thin, so what I'm going to do is grab all them black strokes again, and I'm going to press Command and 2 for lock, and then I'm going to grab the white strokes just by selecting there. Because the top black layers are locked, that white stroke is being selected and I click in that position, and I'm going to try tripling the thickness from 10, which is what the thickness of the black stroke, to 30 for the white stroke behind it. And I think that's looking a little bit cleaner and got a little bit more air. And all that means really is that when you scale that logo right down, you've just still got enough thickness that they don't start touching just due to the compression and the scaling. I hope that makes sense. And then one last thing that we've got here is the circle. All I'm going to do is fill that with white, so I'm just literally going to click that and bring this to the front, so Command Shift and right square bracket. And I think that is a unified and cleaned up version that I think I'm much more happy with, and sort of would be happy to proceed with into like brochures or websites and stuff like that, instead of this very thin version. So if we have a quick little look up side by side, so I think that's quite a nice unified version. Now just looking at this again though, I think the lettering and the oval aren't like centered. I think we've got a little bit more like gap this side. So I'm just going to unlock what we locked earlier by pressing Command Alt and 2, and that was actually unlocked already. And I'm going to highlight everything that I've got here. Then I'm going to press Shift and highlight over the oval again, and then I'm just going to group this. And now what I can do now that's grouped is grab the oval as well, click the oval again so I can grab both things, click the oval again but without holding Shift, and that just makes that like the key object. And then I can press Align centrally, and that's just taken that so there's the same gap here as there is there, and I think that looks a little bit better. I think what this has done is it's made it much more scalable. So now if you made that logo a lot smaller, it's not gonna sort of freak out when it's down at Instagram sizes. Much more manageable. It's still thin, so it still will look elegant when it's down small, because obviously the whole thing is kind of got this sciencey look. But I think if you made this version the same size as that one that I've just made, that line becomes so thin that you can barely see it. So I feel like this is a reasonable improvement. And then if I was going to take it one notch further, what you could do is, I don't know whether there would be sub-brands for this company, or I'm not really sure, but a little idea what you could do for different brands or different categories within the company maybe is use a different color in here. So maybe you could have 3 different variants, like, I don't know, say this was like internal, external, and I don't know, corporate or something. If you just have like various different aspects to the company, perhaps you could use colors in there to sort of differentiate the brands. So what we've done is made the lines thicker just to make it more scalable and more usable down at small sizes. We have also adjusted the spacing issues between the letters and the lines, and then we thought about something else that we could do, like for future use, is if you have different aspects to the company or something like that, we could fill in that front O with different colors. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Okay, then for our next logo, we have a company called Chameleon. And I got a message with this one that says, this logo is created for my own creative agency. We have used the Chameleon name for our brand and trying to design a creative logo that fits everywhere. The font used is Cooper Hewitt with some edits inside, and for icon we tried to compose the shape of skin from Chameleon, first letter K, and at the end the chameleon body inside the icon. Okay then, sounds cool, let's open this up. Thanks for sending this through as a vector as well, it makes it a lot easier when I don't have to redraw the logo, so that's cool. So in the message that you wrote, it said you want one logo that fits everywhere. So I think out of these, probably our best bet to work on is this one here. So for the purposes of this video, I'm just going to take these logos and put them over to the side, so I might reference them a bit later, but at the moment I just want to focus on one. Just get rid of some of them artboards and reposition this logo in here. Okay then, so this is a really cool idea, and I didn't notice at first, but then now you've mentioned it, I did see it. I can see it. We've got the chameleon in there with its tail wrapping round, so that's quite cool. Now I'm going to think about making some quite big changes to this logo, but this is all down just kind of my own personal preference, so you don't have to take any of these on. This is just what I would do if I had this logo up until this point. One of the first things I would change is the fact that in the text here we have lowercase letters mixed with uppercase letters, but the lowercase letters have been increased in height to match the uppercase letters. I just don't really like doing that, as I feel like it makes differences in thicknesses and just generally makes it quite hard to read. Kind of looks like a jumble to my eyes. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is sort of take that and either choose lower or uppercase. So we'll type it out, K-A-M-E-L-E-O-N-I. Cooper Hewitt, I think you said the font was. If we can get that, I always liked it really, really fat fonts, so I'm going to take that one. Yeah, you see, I think that looks quite good. That font looks nice anyway. I don't think we need to use the mix of upper and lower. But let's see how it looks in caps as well, and I'll just make a decision. Chameleon. I think all caps looks a little bit shouty, so just as a snap decision right now, I'm just going to work with the lowercase. So that's one of my first thoughts on this logo. And then another thing that I am thinking about this logo is that I don't really like it when an icon is used in place of a letter. I think that also makes it a little bit hard to read, and just generally prefer the logo to be sort of used alongside the word mark instead of as like a vital part of it. So I'm going to take this icon, which I really like, by the way. It's really cool. I've never created anything like this, as I'm just not very good with like the kind of organic shapes that you've got inside there. So I think that's really cool and it's really nice work. So let's just start repositioning this. I feel like over to the left will be a nice touch, but I probably sort of resort to that a little bit too easily. But let's just see how it goes. We're going to play it out anyway. I feel like using the icon over to the left instead of within the text, it also gives the icon sort of room to breathe, and it's just kind of easier to digest. And it obviously has the added bonus that I just mentioned, that it makes the actual text easier to read as well. So we're going to use that there. And then another thing that I did notice here is this text here. It's kind of difficult to read as the space here isn't that much bigger. Like the space here between the two words isn't that much bigger than the space between every letter. And also this spacing in here between there and there seems too small to me. It kind of makes it feel very cramped and there's no room for it to breathe. So I think that's the same font, just in caps. So yeah, I think this is going to be a nice contrast. If we can just give that a little bit more room to breathe. Creative agency. I think we can, if we can just give that a little bit more room to breathe and maybe sort out some of the spacing issues between the letters, then I think this is going to be really cool. Now this is another point that I always like to think about, is scaling the logo. When we have a font size for the main wording of the logo, if we then use a tagline or a description line such as creative agency here, if that's too small, as soon as you scale this down to sort of business card size, so that'll still be readable, but whatever you've got underneath suddenly becomes too tiny to read, then that logo is not as good as it could be. You can always do variants where you just take the sort of tagline off, but then for this one I think it's kind of important to say creative agency, so I just want to make it big enough that when you scale it down it doesn't become unreadable. So as a rule, I guess the smallest you'd ever want to go is probably a quarter. I mean, that might be heading into dangerous waters, but we're going to try it anyway. So I'm going to do, in the font size palette, you can actually do a little bit of math. So if you just go along to the far right, I'm just pressing the right arrow key there to make sure there's no letters or numbers after. You can do maths in here. So I'm going to just press divided / by 4 and then enter that. And that's just divided that by 4 without me having to get a calculator out, which is a lot easier. And now you see, I think that's looking quite good. I might even go up a little bit in size there. Just, yeah, 75 is a nicer number, and maybe 270 is a nicer number. Just nicer to work with. So let's just see how this could work. And then I want to give that just enough room to breathe without being too much that it looks detached. And then from here, I'm just also want to just fiddle around with the positioning of this just until it looks perfect. So what I might do is take like a serious point of the text, like a strong right hand side of an L, and then just scale that up to touch that, and then just bring that in there, because sometimes the point that the text kind of box makes doesn't align perfectly with different fonts and stuff. So I just want to do this from the actual what you can see rather than what Illustrator can see, because it's kind of taking it from that anchor point there. Okay then, so I think that's looking quite nice. I think if I use the eyedropper tool to grab that colour, the only reason that only grabbed the colour and not the style is because this text is outlined. If I go into outline mode, you can see that that's just outlines. If I had got that text there in that colour, or another colour, if I click that, press I for the eyedropper tool, you can see that's changed there, and then click that, it will change the font and the colour. So say that was, let me just give you a better example, if that was, I don't know, something crazy, if that was that font and I clicked eyedropper tool, click that, it changes the font as well. You can change that in the settings, but I think that's what it defaults to, so just watch out for that. So the only reason that changed color only is because that was outlined. It's a vector paths, not a live text object. Okay then, so from here I think we are looking more readable, easier to digest. maybe this is looking a little bit too big, so I'm going to get my rulers up, Command and colon, and I'm going to change the position of this one, as I think that text is a little bit too big now. I'm just going to make that line off the right hand side of the E. Just pull that in. I don't think there's any sort of hard and fast rules for this, I just want it to look right. I think that's looking quite cool now. And now there's something about this font, I feel like it needs a little bit of kerning done to it, because that feels comfortable to me in there, but then that gap there just looks like it could just come in just a tad. And that one, maybe just one. I always like it quite tight. So I just find it looks neat and tidy. Bit of a funny one here, I might just take that back to -30. And to change the tracking and kerning, if I highlight all of it and press Alt and the left and right keys, it does the tracking. You can see this changing here, so I want that back down to 0. And if I don't highlight any of the text, if I just put the cursor clicked between two letters, it will change the kerning. Okay then, so I think that's looking a lot nicer. Maybe I can just take another knock out of there. I think that's looking quite good. And then the icon position, I'm going to align it from the top and bottom of the text, and that looks too visually small now, and that's basically, I think, because even though it's technically aligned, the shape of the icon kind of has like overshoot points. So if I put them rulers up, you'll see what I'm talking about. Kind of has like these overshoot points that you just want to sort of like increase the size a little bit, just I don't know why, it just makes it look better. Because it doesn't want to be mathematically aligned, you want it to kind of just visually look good next to it. So again, there's no real hard and fast rules. I might be kind of inclined to do times 1 point, probably 1.2 is going to be too small, so I'm going to say 1.4. Probably looks too big, so I'm going to go back, undo that, and do times 1.25. Maybe that's looking about right. I think that's looking quite cool now. Perhaps we could try a capital K on the first letter. No, I think I like lowercase actually. Get them V's out of here. The only reason them V's came in is because V is the shortcut for the black arrow tool. Okay then, so that's what I think I would do for this logo. So what we've done is we've separated the icon from the text to improve the readability. We've changed the actual letters so they're not a mix of upper and lower case that have been resized. We've just chosen one route and just followed that through. And then we've changed the spacing and the text layout of the wording for creative agency as well. All this logo redesigning is thirsty work. I'm not that posh, that's not real Harrogate water, it's just tap water in a bottle. Whew, that was too much. Okay then, so next up we have a logo from Rudy, and it's a message come with this one as well. It says, "My personal logo is attached. I use it for gaming, design and DJing. Would love to see your take on it and how you think it could be improved. I'm very new to logo design and wanted something that doesn't necessarily mean gaming or music, just something that can be applied anywhere." Okay then, that's pretty cool. Okay, and so this is the logo. This is nice, it reminds me of the old school sort of Lost Logos design, like there was a cover on one of these Lost Logos books, and it had this same similar style. It's kind of all made out of circles. I love the fat style, I love the fact it's all kind of like geometric and made out of like raw circular shapes. I think it looks really cool, and I like the overall aesthetic of it. I think it looks really nice. I just think it's a little bit hard to read. I think if I didn't see your email as well, I just wouldn't know what it said. Necessarily. So let's look at some ways of how we can make that a little bit more readable. Okay then, so this is such a grid-like logo. I am going to put the grid on and turn snap to grid on as well and try and redraw this, because I don't think it's a vector at the moment. No, it's not. Okay, so we're going to redraw this just using circles. As I'm redrawing it, I just want to get all my artwork to like the center of the lines. So actually you can see that this has been made to the exact size grid that I've used here as well, which is cool. Okay then, so I think some of the legibility issues are coming from the fact that there's no breaks, even though that is also why it looks cool, so we're going to have to be careful with the balance here. Once I've redrawn this, I'm going to be in a better position to try some stuff, quickly try lots of things and see what works. Basically how I get through pretty much all design problems is the best way to do it is just do it and try stuff until it looks good. Like in the past I used to just sit there sort of panicking about the problem and thinking, oh god, I don't know what to do, but then I've just sort of realised over time that no one really knows what to do when you're just starting, and you just kind of have to try things until it works, and the quicker you get at trying them things, the quicker you can do your work. So it's like, so the more you try, the better you get. Okay then, so now I'm going to set these to 50% opacity just so I can see what bits to cut out. Just using the white arrow, trim away the bits I don't want. Although it links up, we need to put some sort of break in here, so what I'm going to do is press C for the scissors tool, turn off snap to grid, because otherwise it will snap to these grid lines, whereas I want to put it in a very specific place, so snap to grid off for this one. Zoom right in, click where we want to break that, and then A for the white arrow tool, direct selection, over that, delete that, and we are nearly there. Now for this part I'm just taking that whole top bit off because I've got them lines in there anyway, so that's good. And that is it, logo redrawn. So when I take that down there, turn that opacity back up to 100%, we have the logo redrawn in vector form, which is much better, absolutely lovely. I'm going to keep that just because I'm the kind of person that will keep something for 10 years just in case I need it again, even though I never need it again. I like to keep that raw format. I'm going to keep a copy of that up there as well, just for safekeepings and sentimental value. I spent so much time with this logo now. All of, I don't know, 5 minutes. So I'm feeling like if we put some breaks in here, it'll make it easier to read, and perhaps we'll extend some parts out to sort of just accentuate them letters. So I'm thinking one of the key problems here is this doesn't look so much like a U. So perhaps if I'm going to turn snap to grid back on quickly, get a white rectangle just to visualize the white gaps we want to make. These are always fiddly, these types of logos. There's not really like an easy way of making it work, because you're trying to squeeze it out of these exact shapes. It's just kind of difficult, but we can do this. I feel like this is looking more like a U now. I feel like this D, I just really feel like that needs to come up a little so it looks more like a D. But then it does kind of kill the height and width sort of balance that we've got going on. I feel like that is now easier to read, but it's kind of killed that kind of style that you had where it was all crushed together, which is not something that I really want to do. So I'm thinking kind of a compromise between the two is maybe just tuck them in, but not so like these 2 points are touching. Kind of tuck them in so that it's just hinting at touching without being too much. I think that's a lot easier to read now. Let's just quickly expand this so that we don't see them little hairline white marks there, because I don't like the look of them at all. So I'm going to expand that, and that will just turn them strokes into objects. And then I'm going to press Shift and B for the shape builder tool. Oh no, it's not, it's Shift and M for the shape builder tool. I'm going to hold Alt just to whip the bits out that we don't want, which is basically that. And I'm just going to press Shift before I click, and then click and drag over there until it's all one object. And I'm just going to make that object black. There you go. So I'm not entirely sure if you will be happy with this, because it's kind of gone away from your kind of roots logo. But I feel like this is a way of making it a little bit easier to read without taking away too much from that sort of geometric circular style that you've been using. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Okay, and I just wanted to quickly show you this one logo that I didn't actually want to touch because I thought it looked so good. It came in from Cairo, and this is a logo for a women's fashion brand focused on people that are adopters of capsule wardrobes with minimum sets of clothes, following a minimalist trend. And I just thought this logo was really good. There's nothing I would do to improve it. I think the colours are absolutely great. I think the look of the text is really cool. I like the way you've got like the little capsule used as the accent on the A, and then the C is even affected by that. It looks kind of like a rocket kind of coming off the C, or maybe like it's like suctioning towards it. I just thought that was a really cool idea, and there is nothing I'd do to this logo. That looks great. Okay, then for our next logo redesign, we have one called Offbeat Designs, and I'm going to open this in Illustrator now. And you will see that I don't actually have this font. Now this is a cool little trick. If somebody supplies you a file and you don't have the right font, there's a little way of getting around it, which is kind of weird, but it's a cool trick. And I'll show you this now because I actually need to do it as well, just to get this looking right. Okay then, so because that hasn't worked, you can see that it's got that pink outline and obviously doesn't look like this, and I guess he's just had forgotten to outline it. But there's a way of getting around this. So if you open a new document, which I've already made here, and you go File, Place, and choose your document, and make sure Show Import Options is on, so that you can choose the page later in the document. File is already open and has unsaved changes. Do you wish to continue place operation? Yes, I do for this in this situation. I'm going to find the page that had the font error. I'm going to go OK, and you'll see that it shows nicely here. As soon as I press embed, it messes up again. So instead of pressing embed, what I'm going to do is go object, flatten transparency, and then custom I guess is fine. And basically, as long as convert all text to outlines is on, and all strokes to outlines if you want, obviously you just have to work out what that means, and depending on the artwork you might need to change some of these other settings here as well. But that for me is fine. So when I press OK, I have perfect outlined text, and that trick will save you many times throughout a graphic design career. I cannot count how many times that saved me when clients send in work and they say, oh, can we just quickly change something here, and you open the PDF in Illustrator and it comes up with all these font errors, and then you maybe have a different version of the font that they had, and it kind of causes spacing problems. So this way is just the surefire way of making sure the text looks as it was intended. Anyway, that was off on a little bit of a tangent there, but basically here is the logo that was supplied by Offbeat Designs. I'm pretty sure he is a designer, he or she is a designer. So they've got this logo, which is all very cool. Looks good. I'm just laying it out nicely just so I've got something to work cleanly with in a minute. Okay then, so they're called Offbeat Designs, and the first thing I notice is that when I look at this icon, I read that as ODB, and I think that's just going to be a simple fix of basically flipping this icon around. So if we work with this version here for now, even though I like the look of it on this color, I think the colors are really cool. By the way, I nearly forgot to say, I think this design looks really good. I really like the little breakdown you've done here as well, where it says off, then beat, then designs, just to explain it. And I think all we need to do is swap around so that D basically ends up down there, so it reads in the correct order. Okay, I'm just going to make everything black just so it's all nice and simple, and I can really see the raw shapes then, rather than being skewed by any colours. Cool. So okay, in order to make this look like it reads in the right order, this is what I think I would do. It's going to be pretty simple, I think. I think all I'm going to have to do is move that up. Move that up as well. Probably could have done that in the same action, but this is where we are now. I'm going to make sure that space in there is the same as the space in there, but I can worry about that later. I think the best way of doing this could actually be just flipping this. So press O, hold shift, click and drag. I think that's almost there. I think if we skew this, oh, was that perfect? Was that a perfect guess of 15? Oh, that's nice. I think that looks more now. Oh no, we need to skew it a little bit more. I think 2 more. Oh, 1 more maybe. I think now that looks more clearly like it says OBD instead of ODB, and that was just basically due to the positioning of the text. I think the spacing and everything else is nearly right. Let's just make sure it's exactly right. So let's take this space here as our go-to. So I'm just going to rotate that round and use this sort of temporary jig. Make sure that there is the same, which it's not, but I think we'll try it. Because it's a kind of different kind of gap, if you know what I mean. We might not need to make this the same, but I feel like it will help. So let's just try it. And the worst that will happen is we'll try it, not like it, and then have to undo it, which is no big deal. No, yeah, I think that's cool. And I think perhaps we got room to bring this down a little, just to make that be a little bit more solid. Maybe not as much as that. I'll just take that up a little bit. Just want to make sure that line is extending in exactly the same position rather than changing the angles. And then we've also, I just want to make sure that the space here is good, which is actually less. So then what I'm going to do is basically copy that same trick as we did earlier. We're going to add a white stroke to this, set it to the outside, and we're just going to bang that so it's very thick. Bring that to the front. Change the color of it just so we can see it for a second. Wait till it encroaches on there. Make it white again. And now you can see we've got the perfect curve that follows this D. And we want to just bring that to the front. You can see that that's popped in front of there, so obviously don't want that. So I'm just going to cut that, paste in place, which is Command and F. And I think now we've got a logo that's very similar, or an icon that's very similar, but now looks like it says OBD more clearly. And then this is just probably more personal preference, but if I'm going to use this icon next to this text, I might think about just changing the proportions a little. I think these two, actually now looking at this, because we've got this line breaking between the the slanted icon and the slanted text, I think this line is enough break that these two should be aligned like left. And also I'm starting to think they shouldn't even be skewed. I feel like if they were like stood up straight, it might be better. Which they actually are in this version, so I'm just going to take that. I just realised that, sorry about that. Get that out of there, so I'm just cutting and pasting basically. I'm going to use this upright text. Yeah, that's much better. This is what we wanted. Just going to use the white arrow direct selection tool, X for cut, F for paste. And I'm going to use the Shift and M shape builder tool, hold down Alt and click to get rid of them inside parts. And now I'm just going to, with the V black arrow tool, grab that, Apple or Command G for group, and I'm just going to do the same thing here as well. Group that, put that there, and then press V for object selection tool, hold down Shift before I click click and drag, and what that's done is deselected the straight up text, selected the slanted text, and I can just press backspace to delete that. Exactly the same thing with this as well. Now I can make sure they're aligned, get that line spacing looking tight, and then group that, grab that, click on that to make it the key object, and then align vertically. Oh, that was a tiny movement, but it made all the difference. Okay, then that's cool. Oh, I nearly forgot to color it up as well. Let's just color that up. There was nothing wrong with the colors look cool, so we're just going to leave them. Offbeat designs, yeah, the colors are nice. I like the vibe, I like the style. Ah, but did you see what happened just then? Because I used the eyedropper tool, it's got rid of the stroke on there, so I need to undo that. See that point there, when I use the eyedropper tool on that, what I need to do is make a new swatch of this color and then apply that inside here, so that I know that was only a tiny little change, but it's that sort of thing that you just, if you don't notice, you get caught out further down the line. It's just a lot better to just pay attention to it now. Cool, okay, so we got them side by side. So a quick little rundown of what we did. I adjusted the icon so that it read more like OBD, just because generally we read left to right and top to bottom. So instead of the D kind of being at the top half of the B, I just swapped that to the bottom half, so it reads OBD for Offbeat Designs. I took the non-italicized or oblique text and just used that because we had the line between the icon and the text. That kind of put enough of a break in there that I felt like the text shouldn't be slanted, it should be upright to sort of match the line. And when it was slanted, you kind of get that weird negative space in the top left of the text silhouette. It's kind of hard to explain, but I hope you know what I mean based on this video. I think the colors were good, and I think overall it looks really cool. But this is just what I would do. So let me know what you think in the comments. Okay then, so that was the first edition of redesigning your logos. I have to admit it's a little bit weird having the camera pointing on me while I'm actually doing it, so I was feeling the pressure a little bit this time. So if any of these redesigns aren't as good as usual, I'm just going to have to cut myself a little bit of slack because it was just feeling a little bit under pressure with the screen recording on, the camera right in my face, whereas normally I kind of like, you know, like to have a bit of music on and just like relax in with no one watching me as I'm actually going through the process. So I was maybe feeling a little bit under pressure. But anyway, enough of these rubbish excuses. If you think these designs that I did were bad, let me know in the comments. If you think they were good, let me know in the comments. Just let me know what you think, and let me know what we can do to improve the next video that we do like this, because it's not my usual format, and it all just feels a little bit weird really. But yeah, let me know what you think, and thank you very much for watching.